Hola, amigos. Welcome to Silver Fox in Mexico. It's another beautiful day here in Morelia, Mexico, and it's going to give me time to sit back, take a little sip on my horchata water, and observe the train wreck that is the modern American empire. For those of you that are new here, my name is Troy, and I moved to Mexico just a little under 4 years ago. And I did it for personal health reasons to have a better health outcome. But let me tell you, after every news cycle, it just proves to me that I made the right choice to leave the States. And today we're going to talk about the three, in my opinion, terminal conditions that have killed America as we knew it. Almost the end of the superpower era. The problems aren't bad policies. They're just systematic failures. And the last one, the robot and AI revolution that's coming, it's coming for your job. It's coming for your career, the way of life as you know it, and it's coming much faster than you think. You know, this is going to be more than just a soundbite. So go grab a drink and sit down and relax, because we're going to have to go deep on this one. Terminal condition number one. Let's just start with the political facade. The American media, U.S. media, bombards its citizens every day. Well, every minute, it seems like, 24/7 news cycle that there's a choice. Democrats versus Republicans, left versus right, liberals versus conservatives. But really, it's just designed to keep you angry and separated and divided. So you end up spending your time in like a cage fight, fighting over highly controversial, emotionally charged social issues like which bathroom someone can use or which books can be in a library or be presented for students to read. Even Roe v. Wade was decided in 1973, yet every election cycle it is set up that someone has to declare whether they're for or against abortion. But if you look at the scoreboard, it's really the people in power are the ones that are winning. Everybody else is just angry. Look around you. You can't even go to someone's house without getting into some kind of fight. And I'm in Mexico now, so I don't have to worry about Thanksgiving, but I can just imagine the families that are divided coming this Thanksgiving between those people that support President Trump and those that do not. I mean, it's just going to be ugly. But if you look at the people that are actually in power, the corporations, the defense industry, wealthy individuals, look at our foreign policy. That doesn't change. It doesn't matter if it's a Democrat or Republican in charge. The wars are still ongoing. Look back at the previous presidents that have promised we're going to end wars. You don't see wars ending. They're ongoing. And who's benefiting from that? The wealthy, the defense contractors. Next is monetary policy. Both parties, Republican and Democrat, continue to sign off on the same budgets, borrowing more and more money, benefiting the same countries, the same corporations, but you don't see any of that money coming down to the average person. Again, it's all going to the people that support those who get elected. And look at the corporate power, the third part of that. The large tech companies, the pharmaceuticals, the medical industry, the legal industry, all those corporations keep on funneling in money to the local politicians, the federal politicians, for what? So that when those people get elected and they get into office, guess what happens then? They write the legislation. The lobbyists for those industries write the legislation, and that's what the Congress people put into bills. How many times have you watched the news and they interview some congressperson and they're like, well, what's in the bill? And they're like, I didn't have time to read it. Well, if you didn't have time to read it, who wrote it? Well, the corporations wrote it. And they just put it in a bill, and the Congress people voted for it. They don't even know what's in it. So really you have representation, but you're not really getting representation. Some people say that we have a democracy. We don't really have a democracy. We have a constitutional republic where you will vote for a representative who's supposed to represent your interests. but they're no longer representing your interest. They're representing the interest of the people who give them money so they can get elected, whether that's large corporations, wealthy individuals, or even overseas foreign lobbies that heavily put pressure and money into Congress to do what they want to win. The Uniparty's prime directive is self-preservation. They've created a system of perpetual crisis management. Why? Because crisis is profitable for the establishment. They're not solving the budget. They're not solving the deficit. They're just managing the decline. They're not securing the borders. They're just controlling the flow. They're not ending wars. They're just managing the conflict. All of it is designed for profit at those at the top and suffering for the vast majority of Americans. So it doesn't matter if you vote for Democrat or Republican. Let me say that again. Your vote doesn't matter. The outcome is still going to be the same. There's going to be more spending for defense, more money going overseas. You're not going to see money being spent to solve the homelessness problem, the drug problem. I mean, we spend trillions of dollars trying to defeat the drug war. But guess what? There's more people addicted and on drugs now than there ever has been before. This lack of the inability to have a choice, a real choice, because both parties represent the same entities, means that you're not going to be able to have meaningful change. The system is set up to fail. It's actually supporting the people who write the checks. And until people actually sit down and acknowledge it instead of fighting over, I'm a Democrat, I'm a Republican, and realize you're just fighting over social issues and the real things that matter to people about whether they can afford groceries or pay their rent or be able to buy health insurance aren't going to get fixed until people decide, hey, that's more important than some of the social issues that we've been fighting over. Love my heart shot to water. Let's talk about terminal condition number 2, the national debt. It's just recently hit $38 trillion. Let me say that again, $38 trillion. In fact, the interest on that debt is almost $1 trillion a year. That's more than we spend on military and defense spending. That's just amazingly ridiculous. In fact, recently, President Trump borrowed $1 trillion in 100 days. That's the fastest we've ever borrowed money before. And you have to ask yourself, what's he borrowing it for? How did he spend that much money? He whacked financial aid for overseas. He's gone through and shut down the government. He's getting rid of almost all the temporary federal employees. So what are we borrowing money for? Where's it going? You have to ask yourself, this is crazy. Because it's at a point now where mathematically we can't pay that back. And I didn't go look up to see how much per person it is around in the United States. Each citizen is something like $300,000 per citizen to pay back that debt. And clearly we're not going to pay it back. So now you ask yourselves, well, what happens if we don't pay it back? Well, there's really 2 solutions. You can default on your debt. Well, the United States is going to do that because if it defaults on its debt, the dollar will no longer be the reserve currency, and the world as we know it will probably collapse. The other thing is that you just keep on printing money and you devalue it. And that's one of the reasons why you're seeing your pricing power go down. Why things are so much more expensive. Why are things like housing and cars getting more expensive? Especially housing. Why? Because you have a lot of people that are taking their money and realizing, the wealthy, that, hey, if my dollar is going to be worth less tomorrow, I'm going to put it in hard assets. So they're driving money into housing, hard assets. That's why the price of gold is skyrocketed. People are putting their money into hard assets because they know the value of the dollar is going lower and lower. Look, the rest of the world has already figured this out. All you have to do is look at China. They've sold or let expire the U.S. Treasury bonds and T-bills that they've had, and their reduction is about, I think, 50% now of what they were at their all-time high. and they're buying as much gold as they can. They see the future coming, and the American dollar is slowly waning as other countries, along with China, including the countries that are in BRICS, are starting to move away from the dollar. They're not necessarily looking to collapse the dollar like all the fearmongers say. They're just looking to protect themselves, and they're starting to make trades in their own currencies. For example, China recently bought, 20 or 30 billion dollars worth of soybeans from Brazil, and they bought that in their own currencies, swapping between the yuan and the real. So the rest of the world's taken notice, and I don't think that Americans have really understood just how bad this situation is right now. And when the dollar is no longer the reserve currency, when it loses its status and the dollar starts to fall, the low interest rates, the ability to have pricing power all around the world, the standard of living that Americans used to enjoy, that all vanishes. And right now, I think a lot of Americans can look around and they see how expensive their utilities are, their food, their rent's going up. You can already see it happening real time right now. It's getting worse, and that's because the dollar is starting to lose that currency status. And so if you're having pain right now, just imagine when the dollar actually loses more and how bad it will get. It will probably be pretty catastrophic for people living in the States. The final and perhaps most devastating blow to America, people are still trying to pretend away. Think it's not going to happen. It's not a possibility, and that's the end of human work as we know it. For decades, we fought against corporations sending jobs overseas, but really, corporations don't care about American prosperity. They care about maximizing profit for their shareholders, and it's clearly seen. Apple sends all their manufacturing or their iPhones, and they basically can manufacture them for about $15, $20 a piece and bring them back to the United States and sell them for $900. That's all about profit maximization. It isn't about prosperity for their people. And now corporations finally have technology caught up to where they can have a tool that's better than cheap Asian labor. It's zero-cost labor at home. I'm talking about robotics and artificial intelligence, AI. Let's just look at blue collar. How many jobs in warehouses? Let's take Amazon, for instance. Amazon employs over 1 million robots worldwide. You don't think that they're going to go and incorporate more? They just don't have the technology yet to basically wipe out all warehouse workers. It's just going to be workers that fix the robots. For example, in China, there's what they call dark factories. The factories, they only have a couple of workers, and those jobs are done for people who take care of the robots. They don't have any electricity, no lights. I'm sorry, not electricity, they don't have lights. That's why they call them dark factories. They have a couple of places for lights. They run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it's a car company, car manufacturing done completely by robots. Again, the only human people there are the technicians to work on the robots. Long-haul trucking, they've already logged millions of miles of self-driving semi-trucks, long haulers. They don't have to worry about logging the hours of the driver. They can just go and go and go. In the future, once Tesla or the Chinese figure out a way to have safe and secure, self-driving in cars, all those Uber drivers, they're gone. Same thing with Didi, Uber Eats, they're all gone. That's all going to be done by autonomous. Think about it. A robot is an asset. A CFO, chief financial officer, is going to love that. Why? Because a robot can work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They don't need time off to go see a kid's game, the kid's sick, any of that stuff. They don't have to pay health benefits. They just have to maintain it. And that is exactly where we're headed towards. And if you don't think that's coming, you're in for a rude awakening. I saw a video the other day of a company in China. They've actually manufactured a robot that can re-roof a traditional American house roof. It takes the shingles off, takes everything down to the plywood, and then it rebuilds it. So don't think for a second that if you're in certain industries that you're going to be safe, because of the blue collar word, it's coming. They're going to figure out a way to do it. And white collar workers, you're not safe either. You already have AI that can write legal briefs. They can do coding. In China, they have certain hospital rooms that all the procedures are done by AI and robotics. They're coming for your jobs too. It just hasn't evolved as fast as the manufacturing, because it's easier to program a robot arm to do a specific function in, say, a car plant. But it's coming for you. Look, you can have AI now write a website for you. And it's just getting smarter and smarter, faster and faster. And soon all those jobs will be gone. So the question is, what are all these displaced workers going to do? So no matter what President Trump and his MAGA supporters say, these jobs aren't coming back. They're just not. And it's just a matter of time before they figure out a way to incorporate AI and the robotics. So that's going to leave a huge structural mass employment. And you have to ask yourself, okay, who's going to pay the taxes? If no one has jobs, that means the only people that are working are corporations, right? So where are you going to live? How are you going to support yourself? You know, I think Elon Musk once suggested a universal basic income. Well, if you're not working, how much are they going to pay you? $2,000 a month, maybe? Well, at current prices, where are you going to live? They're going to have to force everybody into cities, live in small apartments. You're going to basically be paid to stay at home and be bored out of your mind, or go into, some reality version with goggles from Meta. So ask yourself, really, sit down and think about what I've said, because some really radical changes are soon to be coming. So this is the view from Silver Fox's vantage point in Mexico. You have a uniparty that makes change pretty much impossible. You have a debt balloon that's unsustainable and you can't pay it back. And you have a technological revolution that is going to make the average worker redundant. Clearly, the United States is not going out with a bang. It's going to be a slow, long drawn out process with an agonizing whimper of systematic failure. And I don't want you to think this video is about doom and gloom, because it's not. It's really about preparation and reality. You can't solve a problem unless you know what the problem is. And clearly, the United States, it has a problem, has multiple problems. And it doesn't seem like there's anything in place or any person who's going to step up and fix those problems. When I left the States, it was because of health reasons. I had migraines, and coming to Mexico, I was able to eliminate those migraines. A secondary reason was I was forecasting just how expensive it was going to be able to live in the United States in 10, 15 years. And the cost of living has greatly exceeded what I thought it would be in 10 years from now, from when I left 4 years ago. I left. It was the right decision for me. And as you're looking at what's going on in the United States, what are you going to do about it? So I really would like to know. Leave your comment down below, and I do read all the comments, and I respond when there's a reason to respond. And which of these three conditions that I mentioned in this video scares you the most? The political uniparty, the overwhelming debt, or the coming job losses through robotics and AI? And do you agree with my assessment that those jobs are going to be gone, and what's going to be the United States is going to be like in the future? So let me know in the comments. If you found this video helpful or informative, please give it a thumbs up or share with your friends. And if you'd like to follow me for more content in Mexico and my evaluations of the United States, please subscribe. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care. Peace.